Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the 3LCZ Semafor scanner. This is actually an updated video because I've added quite a few features since the last version. So at first, I'll just quickly go over how the basic strategy for this scanner works. And after that, I'll show you the differences between the previous version and the new added features in this one. So if you are already familiar with how the semaphores work, then you can skip ahead. Okay, so let's get started. Let's try this pair. In this section, I'll describe how the semaphores actually work. These are based on the zigzag indicator, and whenever you get a semaphore, it doesn't mean that you need to trade immediately, because while the semaphore is still forming, price might continue to go up. So right now, it might appear as if the semaphores occur exactly when the price reverses, but in reality, after a few bars, you might get a semaphore 3 here. And after that, as price climbs higher, you might get the semaphore 3 here, and after that here. Which is why, since this is based on the zigzag indicator, these semaphores, they only indicate the highs and the lows of the price. And as price makes newer highs and newer lows, this semaphore, it will keep shifting. Which is why it's never a good idea to immediately trade after the semaphore occurs. We usually use validating indicators because the chances of price reversing near a support or a resistance line, it is much higher. Or we can also use pivot points or other validating indicators to make sure that the price reversal has actually happened. And another important thing to make a note of is that after a semaphore 3 happens, we also need to check the higher time frames to make sure that a semaphore is not ongoing for the current bar on a higher time frame. Like right here, this current bar, it has semaphore 2. If we go to a higher time frame still, right here the current bar does not have a semaphore. So it is very important just to check the higher time frames, because suppose we get the semaphore 3 here, and on the next time frame, for example H4, there is an ongoing semaphore 2 or 1 on the current bar. In that case, price might still continue going lower while the higher time frame semaphore is still forming, which is why we always wait if the higher time frames still have ongoing semaphores. So let me go back to the scanner, and as you can see right here, in all of these, this indicates that a semaphore 3 had happened 3 bars back, and on B1 timeframe, a semaphore 1 is ongoing. In the previous version of the dashboard, in case if a higher time frame had a semaphore, then it would just show these 2 dashes indicating that it has skipped the signal because a higher time frame semaphore was still being formed. But in the new version, I have kept this so that we also know which higher time frame has which semaphore forming. And the next thing, right here, these cross marks, they indicate that price is still far from support or resistance lines. So in case of a buy signal, it will check that price should be near a support line. In case of a sell signal, it will check that the price should be near a resistance line. So right here, if a semaphore 3 forms and price is very close to this resistance, in that case you will get a green tick mark right here. And the same way, if a buy semaphore happens, basically a buy semaphore will show the semaphore 3 happening on the price low, because it will indicate that price will reverse and go higher, which is why this is a buy semaphore, this is a sell semaphore. So if a buy semaphore happens at the price low, and if that price is very close to the support line, in that case, a green tick mark will happen. And in the settings, you can set the minimum distance. Right here, these are the support resistance checks. And over here, you can define the min distance in points. So suppose the time frames that you have defined are M30, H1, H4. right here. These are the time frames. In that case, the very first number for M30, it will check that price should be at least 30 points near the support line for a buy semaphore, and for H1, it should be at least 60 points near the support line, and finally for H4, it will check 120 points. And these are very restrictive values in case if you wanted to have semaphores with a little gap between the support resistance lines. In that case, you can just increase these values, maybe to 120, 240, 320. If we try with these values, in that case, you will get a few more tick marks because price will be nearer to that semaphore right here. So I'll just show you how you can just use the crosshair tool and you can check this distance. This is the distance 125. What we defined right here for H1, it was 240, which is why you get this green check mark right here. And if you get these red crosses, it means that price is farther away from the support resistance lines, which is why you are getting these. If your strategy does not include these SR checks, in that case, just set this to false. I'm using all 28 pairs, which is why it takes about 4 to 5 seconds to load. And that will really depend on your machine and how many more indicators you have on. The next thing, let's talk about the refresh rate. So you can refresh this dashboard based on the number of ticks. Right now we have it at 500. Suppose if you set it to 20. In that case, every 20 ticks, it will refresh this dashboard. The logs in these experts tabs, they will show you the alerts which happen every time the dash refreshes. And if you have pop-up alerts on, then you will also see these alerts. So whenever everything matches, in that case, you will see the semaphore signal and up bar for bar 2. So semaphore 3 had happened 2 bars back and it was an up signal. So this is another difference between the previous version and the new version. In the previous version, it used to show buy and sell signals, but that was confusing for a lot of people because they assumed that a buy signal would mean that you have to buy immediately. But with Semaphore 3, it is usually a good idea to use a validating indicator and to not buy as soon as the semaphore occurs, which is why now it will show you up and down signals. And the next thing that we can talk about is the stochastic. In the new version, stochastic settings, they also have this stochastic status. So in the previous version, it just used to check if stochastic had gone overbought or oversold, and then it had come back inside to safe levels. But sometimes people have strategies in which they prefer for the stochastic to be safe or for the stochastic line to be overbought or oversold, or also overbought, oversold, and back within the safe. So in case if you have this selected, then it will show the alert for only one bar, because for only one bar, these stochastic settings will be true. So in that case, you can always set this to false so that it shows you alerts for all other signals as well. But if your strategy is based on stochastic and you want alerts only if the stochastic settings are true, in that case, you can set this to true. And these are the time frames. So these comma separated values, they will actually correspond to these time frames. So right here, if you have M30, but for stochastic, if you want to check H1 for M30, like one higher time frame, in that case, you can define this something like this. So for M30, it will check stochastic on H1. For H1, it will check stochastic on H4. And finally, for H4, it will check the value for D1 stochastic. And right here you can have different periods for different time frames. And also you can set different overbought and oversold values. And like I said, you can set the status, whether you want stochastic to be safe between the OP and OS values, or if you want the stochastic to be overbought or oversold, or finally OBOS and back within the safe range. I'll go back to the original time frames. Keeping the same time frames will mean that it will check the values for the current time frame. And if the stochastic settings, if these match, then you will see this S keyword right here. And if you have set alert only on stochastic to be true, in that case, it will not show you alerts unless this matches and all the other settings match as well. And as for the alerts for Semafor, right here, these are the Semafor 3 settings. So right here, period 1, 2, and 3. These are the periods for Semafor 1, 2, and 3. It will always give importance to Semafor 3. So in case if current bar, suppose right here, if current bar has a Semafor 1 forming, but if Semafor 3 had happened within these 3 bars, if you have checked previous bars for Semafor 3, so if it had happened within 3 bars, then it will show you the Semafor 3. Right here, it was 2 bars back. And there is a Semafor 3 on the current bar on H4 time frame. So all of these will show you what the current scenario is. And if you get this Semafor 1, which will mean that Semafor 3 had not occurred within these past 3 bars. So if you keep this to a much higher value, like say 20, in that case, all of these will show you that Semafor 3 had occurred on which bar it had occurred. So let's just see. So this will scan the past 20 bars and it will show you that Semafor 3 had occurred 17 bars back, and this second value is always for the current bar. So on the H1 time frame, the current bar has Semafor 1 ongoing. You can also set, if you want even more bars to be checked for the alerts, if you want the alert to happen on a particular bar where Semafor 3 happened. So right here you can set alert or highlight Semafor on bar number 2. So all of these alerts will be when Semafor 3 happens on bar 2. If you set this to 0, in that case you will get alerts when Semafor happens on the current bar. But we already have this setting, which is why it's preferable to set an alert when Semafor occurs, because after a Semafor 3 we need to wait at least a few more bars to check if Semafor on the higher time frames has fully formed, which is why it is better to set this to 2 or 3. And if you are not interested in this higher time frame check, in that case you can always set that to false. Skip if Semafor on higher time frame. If you set this to false, in that case it won't check the higher time frames. And finally, the last difference between the previous version and the new one is this newly added MA filter. So if you have this to true, and if you have an MA period and method, applied price, and all of these things set, in that case it will show you these alerts. The buy alerts will only be shown if price is above MA, and sell alerts will only be shown if price is below MA. So I'll just set this to, and I had also set the higher time frames to false. So it will give you a much more compact view. And I'll just set the, instead of having 20 previous bars, I'll just set this to 3 so that it only checks the past 3 bars. And I'll also set this stochastic to false so that we can only focus on the MA. This is also false. Right here, this is a sell semaphore. And if you go over here, then price is above the MA. And let's see another 3, 2. Yeah, so alerts were set for bar number 2. So right here, once again, price is above this moving average, which is why it won't show you this alert. So that's how the MA filters work. They will filter out the alerts based on your moving average. And finally, if you're only interested in getting alerts when semaphore 1, 2, or 3 happen on the current bar, in that case, you can set these to true. And once again, if you're using the MA filter, it will only show you the filtered out alerts. So I'll just set this to false, and everything else is also false, which is why it will only focus on semaphore 1, 2, and 3 on the current bar, those alerts. So right here, if you do not see a bar number, that will mean that the semaphore has happened on the current bar. So the previous bars, that is only for semaphore 3 and semaphore 1, 2, and 3 for current bar. Those signals, you can get the alerts for those. And everything else is exactly the same as it was in the previous version. So I'll also link this video in the description box below in case you need to check this out. That video talks about all of this. And right here you can set the detailed journal logs or pop-up alerts. In case if you want notification alerts on your phone, you can set this to true. In case if you're using this with your own expert advisor or with something else, then you can always get these file alerts. I also have a Telegram EA to send you these signals to your Telegram. So you can check that out. I'll also add the link in the description. And right here, the shift is 0, which means all of these checks, they will happen starting from the current bar, the ongoing bar. And this one, refresh after ticks. If you feel like your dash is hanging, then you just set this to a slightly higher value. Because if you have a lot of things loaded on the dash, then it might need some more ticks to function. We already talked about all of these semaphore settings and the stochastic settings, also the SR, and finally the MA filter. So I think that's pretty much it for this one. In case if you have any questions, just write to me in the comments below and I'll be happy to help. And this dash, it already has about like 60 plus settings, which is why I won't be adding any new filters or any new checks to this one. You can also check out my website if you like. Whenever I update anything in any of my products, I always keep the website description updated so that you guys can always know what the new features are. I'll also link this in the description box below, and it has, detailed description on how each and every setting works and what all of these symbols on the chart, what each button means. So if you have any questions or comments, you can also write to me on my website. And if I make any bug fixes or anything, I'll definitely add it to the change log right here towards the end. Also, I have a few strategies that you could use in the how to trade section, which shows you the support resistance or the pivot strategy. And it also shows you the half trend strategy. So just check it out if you like and let me know what you think. And in case if you need a demo version for this, I can send you a 1 week time demo which has all the features of the full version so that you can try it out for a week. Just send me an email, check out my website, and you can use the contact form to contact me. And I'll send you the free demo if you like. I really hope you guys enjoy these new added features, and I really hope you guys enjoy using this dash. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and have a nice day, guys. Thanks so much.